do mutual funds really just disappear? That's what I'm thinking. So recently I got a chance to attend a great educational conference down in Chicago, and one of the presentations caught my eye, and I wanted to share a slide with you talking about mutual funds and how many funds survive various periods and sort of like who's left standing, and of those, how well do they do relative to the market. So we'll pull up a slide here. This comes from Dimensional Fund Advisors research, and you can take a look, read what it says in the slide here over some various periods, 10, 15, 20 years, relatively long time frames. Over on the right-hand side, we have the number of mutual funds that started each of those periods, right about 3,000 for each of the periods. And then that sort of middle darker blue line, how many funds are still in existence 10, 15, 20 years later. And then the light blue is how many of the funds that started ended up beating their benchmarks, right? And we've seen this information before. I know I've shared this on what I'm thinking, but just seeing it in this format really struck me again. It's worth revisiting. I wanted to share it again with you. And just looking at, let's use that 15-year number, because at 50%, it's easy to do math on that. We start with something like 3,200 funds. 15 years later, half of them are gone, right? 1,600 funds just cease to be in existence. What happens to those? It's not like you lose all your money in those. It gets merged into another fund, or it gets liquidated. They have a payout on those things, right? But that fund literally does no longer exist. And guess what? When you look at the end of the time period, hey, what have funds done the last 5, 10 years? Those funds are no longer being counted in that framework of things. So we'll see numbers. We'll see things like, take a look at that light blue and the darker blue. 40% of those, if you take a look at those two, of the half the funds that survive, there's still 21% that beat the market, something like 40%. That number is the same for 20 years and for 10 years. We get somewhere in the 40-45% of funds outperform their benchmarks, but that ignores that half of them that have fallen off over time, right? And when you think about, so nobody investing in those funds thinks, hey, do I have a 50-50 chance of my fund even being around, right? We're not thinking about that. We're thinking about, how can we get good returns? Is it possible to beat the market? And you look at evidence like this, and it, definitely points to no. And think about those 1,600 funds that went away. Were they doing so well, right? They were getting such good returns that they shut them down, that they merged them into another fund, right? Probably not the case. So as you think about how difficult it is to beat the market, to outguess everybody else that's out there, all the professionals that are picking stocks, right? We kind of know that it can't be done, but this is sort of a refresher looking at why we believe what we believe, why we believe that getting the market returns, we don't have to try to beat them, because look at the evidence here. It's just really, really difficult to do. And again, just taking a look at half the funds over time have gone away. And there's been data from this. They've been doing this study for a long time. This is not just cherry picking numbers. So that's what I'm thinking about today. As always, interested in knowing what you're thinking about. If you're watching on YouTube, jot a comment in the comment box or shoot me an email directly. And as always, thanks for watching.